Roman Reigns gets Das Boot from the Bloodline. And we are getting word that Solo Sikoa's losing streak has possibly hit 39 losses in a row. There was supposedly a dark match after SmackDown went off the air last night, and Solo took on Jey Uso. Apparently there was a low blow which caused a disqualification on Solo's behalf. Therefore, the losing streak would go to 39. I'm still trying to get confirmation on that, but a couple of reliable sources have claimed that that's how it went down in Detroit last night. So, if that is the case, he is one loss away from 40 in a row ever since Solo defeated John Cena, annihilated John Cena. Solo Sikoa has never won another match. This was last year, like October, November-ish. So that's wild. I'm still trying to get confirmation on that. But it's ironic how Solo is talking about how wins and losses matter now more than ever, which is the reason Jimmy had to get Das Boot from the Bloodline, which is the reason he's taken over the Bloodline and given Roman Das Boot. And it looks like Paul Heyman, if he doesn't fall in line, gets Das Boot. Now all of a sudden wins matter, but Solo still desperately needs one. So I'm still trying to get confirmation on that. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the SmackDown 4/12/24 review, the post-WrestleMania SmackDown. We got Tiffy Time. We got Tiffany Stratton, man, out there doing her best Clueless cosplay, and I loved it. Anything Tiffany wears is going to be flawless anyway. But man, when she's tapping in to that late 90s, Clueless, come on, man, she nailed that. Naomi, however, said, "You can party anywhere but here." And Naomi put a halt to Tiffany Stratton. We'll talk about that last night. Bayley in her next challenger, and perhaps we have her next challenger for the title next week on SmackDown, but perhaps who's going to be taking her on in France at Backlash in just 3 weeks from tonight. We'll also talk LA Knight and AJ Styles. Their WrestleMania battle was not their last. Next week, the stakes are even higher. We'll go to that as well. We'll talk the Bloodline. We're going to have to discuss this in length because this, after last night, is his entirely new Bloodline with a brand new member, and it's probably not going to be the last. Cody Rhodes. We're going to talk Cody Rhodes. He kicked off the show, obviously. Jade Cargill, if you think Monday Night Raw was the last you were going to see of her this week, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Man, it looks like they're going to keep them together. That is a super team. I don't know two individuals that are going to take out Bianca and Jade Cargill. You could take two Power Rangers. You could take Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. You can take any two juggernauts. Put Batman and Superman together. They're not beating Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. It's not happening. We're going to have to talk about that tag team match from last night. And a lot more, man. This is, again, the post-WrestleMania SmackDown. This is where you tie up the loose ends from WrestleMania and you begin the launch to Backlash, which, again, is in just 3 weeks, guys. 3 weeks from tonight. So they got a lot of planning and creative they got to tap into. So without any further ado, I say we do that. BC's going to get a massive swig of coffee, and we're going to talk SmackDown 4/12/24 post-WrestleMania. A lot to discuss, little time to do it, so let's get amplified. Cody Rhodes starts this show. He sets up 2 triple threat matches for the night where the winners of each will face one another next week, and the winner of that match will then face Cody at Backlash. Now, I'm not sure why WWE has to constantly do these mini tournaments just to decide number 1 contenders. Once in a blue moon, it's okay, right? It's fun, it's intriguing, it's a good concept. But when you do them all the time, it loses its luster, and they never make sense. Like these 2 matches, for instance, these 2 triple threats. Owens versus Mysterio versus Styles, and then Lashley versus LA Knight versus Escobar. Well, first of all, 3 out of those 6 individuals, Styles, Owens, Escobar, they all lost at WrestleMania. And now they're somehow rewarded for those losses. Also, where is Randy Orton? Who decides that Orton is out, but Owens is in, when both lost at Mania? In fact, if you want to do a bigger deep dive, Owens was the one who got pinned by Logan Paul, not Randy Orton. I wish WWE would just decide a number one contender in advance. Instead of doing tournaments for weeks, get creative and kickstart a fun, intriguing story from the jump. I'd rather weeks of great storytelling than meaningless tourneys, because if you do them all the time, they just become meaningless. Do you guys realize next week, just look at the tag division. Next week, we have another multi-tag team schmoz match to decide the number one contenders for, I believe, Waller and Theory's tag titles. Sound familiar? Every single month we do these kind of matches, where they just chuck all of the tag teams they have in one match, and whoever wins, they're the number one contenders. It's lazy booking, right? And we do it every month, to the point where it's beyond the opposite of fun. But it also tells the talent you have no incentive to win these matches, because in just 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to get another opportunity for a shot at the titles. Because every month you're going to be thrown in these matches where you just got to win one. It's like the lottery. You keep playing enough, you'll eventually win. So it's meaningless. Every single month we're doing these mini tourneys for the US title, for the IC title. Some type of gimmick to come up with the number one contender. Just to decide it in advance backstage, and from the jump tell us a story. Last night to start the show, Cody Rhodes was out there. Boom, right there, whoever he's going to be facing at Backlash. Let's ignite the story. Tell us why we should care. By the end of the show, we should be edge of our seat. We cannot wait to take out our wallet to give you some money so that we can see Cody Rhodes versus whoever he's challenging. Instead, we're going to play this mini tournament game. That's great to extend LA Knight and AJ Styles till next week. But at that point, there's only 2 weeks to go before Backlash. What is the animosity between Cody and whoever he's facing? Just start telling stories from the jump. Stop with the mini tournaments. Nauseating. Once in a while, I get it. Cool. They're doing these 2 triple threats. Then they announce the tag team schmoz for next week. LA Knight defeats Bob Lashley and Santos Escobar in the first triple threat to kick us off, by the way. Knight pins Escobar via the BFT. So Escobar takes the ultimate pin here. LA Knight moves on. This pretty much tells us, as I told you guys in the SmackDown preview that I put up late afternoon yesterday, I told you guys that it was penciled in that they're going to continue AJ Styles and LA Knight's feud. We just didn't know exactly how they were going to do it. Well, LA Knight winning this and Styles is in the next triple threat. You kind of knew Styles was going to win that. We'll go over that in about a minute or a few minutes. But LA Knight takes this one. Now, Paul Heyman is out next with Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. This is an in-ring promo. And this was the start of a brand new bloodline, whether Paul Heyman at the time knew it or not. Solo says there are consequences to losing. And from behind, Tama Tonga attacks Jimmy Uso, the debut of Tonga. The irony of Solo talking about losing when he hasn't won a match since beating John Cena at Crown Jewel last year. He is now, again, 0 wins out of his last 38 matches. And we believe, I still have to get confirmation, we believe that he was disqualified last night in a dark match after SmackDown, which still counts, guys. PLEs, television, dark matches, it all adds up to nearly 40 straight losses. So if that is the case, he is now 0-39. I again will get more confirmation on that. But confirmed 38 straight losses. Again, possibly 39. And now all of a sudden now Solo is taking W's more seriously. That's a good thing. He should be. Your booking matters. Realistically, anyway. So that is a good thing that he's taking W's more seriously. It's just ironic. It's funny that he's the one who's kicking people out of the group because they're losing. It's hilarious. So anyway, Solo and Tonga dismantled Jimmy Uso, guys. Tonga attacks Jimmy Uso upon his debut, and Solo and Tonga just destroy Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso gets Das Boot from the Bloodline. Paul Heyman goes to call Roman Reigns because he knows this is not part of the plan, but Solo doesn't allow it. Solo grabs the phone from Heyman's hands. He hurls it to the canvas, and Solo starts smashing the phone, just stomping on it into pieces. And just like that, Paul Heyman knows what's going on. There's a takeover here, and Roman Reigns just got Das Boot from his own Bloodline. They had to change, guys. I love this because the Bloodline was finished. As I said in the preview yesterday, I said there's no way the Bloodline can continue without Rock and Roman. You can't continue with just Solo and Jimmy. Jimmy has only won 4 matches out of his last 38. If you want to just look at the 38 losses in a row that Solo has somehow produced, Jimmy's no better, or not that much better. 4 wins out of 38. The point is, when you do that for so long and so many months, nobody really looks at you like a winner. We like the dudes, we respect the dudes, we want the best for them, booking-wise and in totality. But nobody's looking at Solo and Jimmy and going, whoa, main event, badass, because they haven't been booked that way. They've just been booked as lackeys for Roman. So you couldn't keep going and calling them the Bloodline with just them two. There has to be a drastic change. I love how Roman pretty much got an automatic Das Boot the Friday night right after WrestleMania. Like, losses matter, and there's consequences to the L's. So, Jimmy, you lost. You're out. And him grabbing the phone from Paul Heyman when he was about to call Roman, that's basically saying, if he was here, he's out too. So, interesting dynamic. 2 members of the Bloodline booted. Now you could say, well, BC, it's not confirmation Roman's been booted, but what else? Look at all of the puzzle pieces last night. Clearly, Jimmy being booted was not the plan, not from Paul Heyman's face. And when he tried to call the tribal chief, Solo said, you're not doing, even smashed Paul's phone, so he has no communication to Roman Reigns. Doesn't sound like this was Roman's orders. And then backstage, Paul Heyman was confronted with Solo and Tonga, and Tonga says, but by orders of the tribal chief. And Solo steps up and shows him the spike, like if you get out of line, the spike. That's what awaits. And Paul Heyman goes, what does that mean? By orders of the tribal chief. Like, that's literally what he said when they walked away. Paul Heyman says, what does that mean? So none of this Paul has been informed about. It sounds like this is a takeover from Solo. This is now his group. He knows that The Rock has taken off for a while. Roman Reigns has taken off for a while. This is Solo's time to take this group and make it something. And I don't think that Tama Tonga was the last debut you're going to see in that group. I do believe that you're going to see Jacob Fatu soon. And this will be a whole new, entirely different group. And by Survivor Series, you could have like an old bloodline, new bloodline situation. I don't know about War Games, but you could have one of those deep-rooted kick-ass storylines where you have this group, and you gotta watch them collide. And it's almost like NWO, Black and White versus NWO Wolfpack. If anybody remembers old school WCW, you could do something like that for sure. I don't know if that includes Roman and The Rock. I think it would have to. But Jimmy would obviously realign with Jey Uso somehow. And I guess, Roman would have to headline that. Rock, probably not. But you would have Solo, maybe Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga, and then you would have Jimmy, Jay, and Roman, I guess. And then if they can find one apiece more, you have a legit 4-on-4 for the series. Anyway, that's future booking, but this had to happen. The Bloodline had to change, giving Roman and Jimmy Das Boot and Solo creating his own unit. This is exceptional, and it's what Solo absolutely needed. Because again, if you're gonna save Solo, you have to start somewhere, man. This dude's about to be 0-40. 0-40. So he's got his new group now. Hopefully they can help him. Start booking him like he's this Roman Reigns, I put in quotes. But, start booking him I don't care how much help he has, but he needs W's to be taken more seriously. Maybe this is the start. So anyway, in closing, Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, Das Boot. an entirely new bloodline, and it looks like Paul Heyman's kind of in the middle. Like, it's the old, if you can't beat them, might as well join them mentality. You're with us or you're against us. Paul Heyman will have to ultimately decide. If they want Paul to take some time off, this could be a good ass whooping he takes maybe next week. You plan it out perfectly, and Paul ends up getting Das Boot. Hour number 1 ends with Braun Breaker. I told you in yesterday's preview that they were going to heavily highlight Tiffany Stratton and Braun Breaker somehow last night. Well, they had Breaker in a straight-up 60-second jobber match. Braun Breaker defeats Cameron Grimes via spear pinfall. That's great for Braun Breaker, by the way. It's great to see that Baron Corbin is not tied to the hip of Breaker like in NXT. You cannot have Baron Corbin be the anchor weighing Breaker down. That cannot happen. Breaker has to be on SmackDown, be on the WWE main roster by himself. Show the audience why they should care and why Breaker is special. So that victory is great for Breaker. I'm not sure what it does other than greatly hurts Cameron Grimes. What happened to Cameron is my question. Cameron Grimes was phenomenal in NXT. Great on the microphone, can carry storylines on his back. I love the work he did with Knight and the $1 Million Man and the $1 Million Championship. And obviously he's a good wrestler. He's got so much going for him. He gets called up to the main roster. They don't know how to use him, so then they just stop using him. And then they bring him back after Mania, after being kept off of WrestleMania. They have him come out the Friday night after, and he just loses a jobber. They just made him a legit jobber. Straight up jobber entrance. Straight up jobber match. Did they just give up on Cameron Grimes? And if so, that is a shame. This dude's got so much charisma, personality, and talent, man. It's going to be interesting to see. If it was 60 seconds, I would have had anybody in there, man. Damn Danny Dipshit Guggenheimer, Fuckwad Fred, anybody from the local bingo hall. Pluck them. Luigi Lugnuts. Anybody, but just not an actual superstar or somebody that could be getting over in the near future because he's that good like Cameron Grimes. Don't use somebody like that. Just pluck somebody from the local indie hall, have them lose in 60 seconds. Nobody's going to remember that. And Braun Breaker looks dominant. There was no need for this. I don't get it. On to hour number 2. Bayley, your new women's champion, starts it off. Swig of coffee. Fans do the customary "you deserve it" chant. They were giving Cody Rhodes that at several times at the start of the show. Again, just like "this is awesome," we have to have a variation of chants, guys. We're getting very stale as fans. Every time there's a new champion, "you deserve it." Well, if everybody deserves it, does anybody not? I mean, I've yet to see a champion step in front of the audience the next day or the next show after they've won it and hear a crowd go, "You don't deserve it." You don't deserve it. They all deserve it. We get it. Everybody deserves it. If you go out there, you bust your ass, you perform night in and night out, we get it. You deserve it. We have to get better as a fan group. We have to get better with our chants. Same with "this is awesome." Not everything can be awesome after 30 seconds just because they did some flips, dives, and sequences. Moving on. Bayley thanks them back. A big heartfelt speech about how she's only there still and at the top of her game because of all of us. Never stopping our support for her. So it was a very nice message to the fans. She says, "Michael Cole's probably going to make fun of me for this, but I truly thank all of you." She talks about her next challenger, but Tiffany Stratton is out to claim the number 1 contendership. It's Tiffy Time. She's out there like the, late 90s? Maybe mid-90s, the old school movie Clueless. I forgot the character's name, but Alicia Silverstone played the character. And you always remember that iconic yellow plaid outfit that she wore. This was a playoff of that, or at least I believe it was. It had to have been, and it fits the Tiffy character. So Tiffy's out there looking like $1 billion plus, by the way. I don't know how she keeps her girls in when she wrestles, but they somehow stay in place until the end of the Naomi match. That's another story. But I mean, beauty, talent, everything in between. Tiffy Time is the real deal. She is a phenomenal wrestler. She just happens to be beyond beautiful too. It's literally like the total package, and we ain't talking Lex Luger. We're talking Tiffy Time. She's out there. I'm thinking, all right, make the match. She doesn't even have to prove anything else. Just make the damn match. Look what she did in the Elimination Chamber. Look at the response she got. She already defeated Naomi, by the way. Just give her the title match. Bayley says, sorry, my first title shot is not going to you. It's going to Naomi. Naomi then hits the ring. Stratton says she already beat Naomi, which again is true. So she should get the title match. So then a match between Stratton and Naomi is made for right now, or at least right after break. Now Naomi ends up pinning Stratton. So now they're a one-off. I guess they'll have a rubber match in the future. They start promoting Bayley and Naomi for the title. However, at the time, they never mentioned Backlash. Later, we would find out that it's for next week's Smackdown. So Naomi and Bayley will not be at Backlash in France. That leaves a title match open. So you gotta think Tiffy Time, maybe, right? Somehow Tiffany and Naomi, this is not done. Again, it's one win apiece. And somehow maybe Tiffany gets that title match for Backlash. It makes sense. Face versus heel, first of all. And a more than viable and valuable opponent for Bayley and Tiffany Stratton. And even if she loses, as long as they give them enough time and they just rock out like I know both ladies can, Tiffany will find great victory in defeat. So for those saying, yeah, but can Tiffany afford a loss like that? Absolutely. A loss like last night, even though I much love to my gal, Naomi, it was hard to see Tiffany take that L. Again, great for Naomi. It's just odd booking for Tiffany. Completely left off of WrestleMania. And then a quick loss from the jump post-Mania. It's like LA Knight all over again. When they just don't strike while the iron was hot. And momentum was soaring with LA Knight. And they just kept them off shows. And they didn't book them right for months. They like to cool you off. It's so dumb. I don't understand. When Tiffany Stratton was the loudest ovation, and it wasn't even the United States. She was the loudest ovation at Elimination Chamber, inside that chamber. The biggest chants, the most cheers, and she was cooled off instantly. She won like the match against Naomi, and then they just kept her off TV. Kept her totally off WrestleMania. They just cool them off when their momentum is at such a high. So again, if you want to set some... Now, do they do a triple threat, Naomi, Tiffy, and Bayley at Backlash? I'm okay with that, I guess. And it saves both Naomi and Tiffy from taking a straight-up loss, because there's no way Bayley's leaving France at Backlash without that championship, nor should she be. So it's interesting. Brings up a cool dynamic, but I love how Naomi and Tiffy are right there in that title scene with Bayley. It makes total sense. You build up Jade Cargill, you use Bianca to do such. I'm cool with that too, because a lot of people were getting fatigued by seeing Bianca with the title picture. And it's more to do with the booking than her with a title, by the way. So that's a little bit of a misconsumption there. But I like the Bianca and Jade tag team sitch. You could do so much with that. And again, it's only going to elevate Jade, and it will eventually lead, hopefully, to the Jade-Bianca match so many want to see, like BC. Speaking of, that was actually the next match. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defeated Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Cargill pins Green via Glam Slam. It's the same finish that we saw on Monday Night Raw. That was just a singles match. Belair and Cargill as a legit tag team is an incredible concept and literally unfair for the entire women's roster. And I'm talking every women's roster in any company. You would not want to see Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I don't even know what twosome you could put together. I mean, Jordan Grace and Mickie James, I don't even know if that could do the trick. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, and Britt Baker, or Toni Storm and Mercedes. I'm not sure that would do the trick. You could put Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch together. I'm not sure that does the trick. You could put Io Sky and Julia together. I'm not sure that does the trick. I don't know what two females could lock up against Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair and actually even stand a chance. It's wild when you see these two together. It's like, damn, they're just trying to compete for who can out-muscular the other one, man. Who had the better workout earlier? The match is like the cherry on top. That's like the post-workout, right? Just having a match real quick after their workout. Wild. Jade, Cargill, and Bianca Belair. Another easy victory over Green and Niven. The main event was the second triple threat qualifier for a shot at Cody's title. Again, earlier in the night, LA Knight won this triple threat, and this one, AJ Styles defeated Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio. Styles would end up pinning Rey Mysterio off a gnarly Styles clash from the ropes and onto Kevin Owens. So if you didn't see the actual show, basically, Styles has Rey Mysterio in the Styles class position up on the ropes. Owens is laid out down below on the canvas. And Styles launches himself and Rey, and Styles clashes Rey onto Owens. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you got the visual of that, because it was wild. It was absolutely gnarly. And AJ Styles pins Rey Mysterio. Owens loses his second straight triple threat. Again, one at Mania for the U.S. title. He was in there with Logan Paul and Orton. On that match, in that match, he actually took the L, took the pin from Logan. On this one, he didn't take the pin, but it's another straight consecutive triple threat loss. So AJ Styles is now going to take on LA Knight next week. The winner of that will take on Cody at Backlash in France. The show actually ends with LA Knight hitting the ring. LA and AJ are pretty much just trash talking one another face to face as we fade to black and go off the air. Now, this is interesting because Cody and Bayley are in similar situations in regards to the Backlash opponents, right? It makes sense to go straight heels, Cody versus Styles, Bayley versus Tiffany. But they could go triple threat routes, right? For one or both, like Cody versus AJ and LA somehow. Or Bayley versus Tiffany and Naomi somehow. So that's something to look forward to. Or at least, which way is WWE going to go? Are they going to go straight one-on-ones or triple threats? I don't usually like schmazzes, but for both, I could see how it would be beneficial. I can't say that I would scoff at Cody versus LA and AJ, same as Bayley, Naomi, and Tiffany. And the other big talking point from last night's SmackDown, of course, the new version of the Bloodline. It looks like Jimmy definitely got Das Boot. He got annihilated last night. And Roman, it looks like he got Das Boot. It looks like Solo's running the show, and Paul Heyman can either fall in line or he can fall out of line or get his ass whooped out of line. But there is a new Bloodline. It looks like Solo's running the show with his 0-39 streak. And then Braun Breaker, of course, man, with his dominating performance. And I don't know where Cameron Grimes goes from there. But Braun Breaker, they have started the ascent for him. Cargill and Bianca, a mega team. And that's putting it mildly. That's an understatement. I'm thinking of Cargill and Bianca. I don't even know who would knock them off their pedestal that they have placed themselves on. And at least, when it's all said and done, man, at least after last night's show, at least things are interesting again, right? Like, there's a lot of questions that we want answers to. There's a lot of situations that we're like, all right, Backlash could be good if they do this, or if this comes to fruition, if they switch that up. Where is that going? That's going to be pretty cool for Backlash. Things are interesting. And I don't know if that's just still because it's, we're coming off the fumes of WrestleMania, but that's a good thing. It wasn't the best of shows last night, but there's a lot of interesting developments, and we got to see how they shake out, man. But that is SmackDown for 4/12/24, and until next time, and there will be that next time, top guys, where I'll be saying check you.